Hi everyone, it's Irit with a new process video, and I'm kind of excited about today's layout because it's a mixed media page, and yeah, those seem to be the most popular ones on my channel, so I hope that you'll enjoy it. And I'm starting here with the white paper came from a block that I bought at the local craft store, and it's like a mixed media paper pad sort of thing. And I think this is the first time I think that I used it kind of as the background to a layout, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's might be slightly stronger and like sturdier than the American Crafts cardstock, and it's also like pure white, and it's completely smooth. So yeah, I think I'll do this again. And I'm starting with a piece of like tissue paper that I got at IKEA, and I glued it down. I used clear gesso. I'm not sure why. I think you could use gel medium, and I don't know, the gesso was just there. I think, no, maybe I actually did use like matte medium. I'm not sure, but basically I kind of glued it down and used a spatula to really like smooth the tissue paper, and I also like used it kind of roughly, so to get like more texture I ripped the tissue paper a little bit, and that was like intentional. The point of this is kind of to already start with some color and texture on your page. I think it creates like an interesting look at the end, and you can totally see the stripes on I think, yeah, a big portion of the layout of the final page. So after that was completely dry, I did this layout in the course of like a few days because it needs like drying time, and I think if you let things dry by themselves and not use a heat tool, which sometimes is really hard, but I think it warps the paper less. It's not a big deal, and I use a lot of adhesive when I adhere the page like to a 12 by 12 piece of paper, because this is not 12 by 12, it's just shy of. But yeah, if it bothers someone, or if you're making this on a 12 by 12 page and you're not going to adhere it to another one, you might want to try it, like let things dry, like air dry, and not use a heat gun. I don't know. For me, that's usually how it works. So I added some Peerless watercolors, and I decided to go with kind of like a pink, yellow, orange color scheme, which is I think my favorite, and I just can't get away with it, and especially with mixed media pages, I just love the way it looks. It's sunny and bright and happy, and yeah, those are just my colors, and I think I should just embrace it and not fight it. I think there's something like really interesting about the process of making mixed media pages, or at least for me, and there's kind of the stage where you're like, wait, this is not looking good, it's not looking like anything. And that was kind of how I felt after putting that first layer of watercolor, which by the way I put also a layer of white gesso on some of the page, not all of it. And I think it's just interesting because this paper is kind of strong. I wasn't like too worried about putting gesso over the whole thing because, you know, unless you really soak it with water, this paper can handle some sprays. So it creates this interesting texture, how the sprays and the paints look on gessoed surface versus like a surface without gesso that hasn't been primed. So anyway, it was looking kind of and then I decided to add some flowers with modeling paste or molding paste, using a stencil, a Crafter's Workshop stencil. And after that was completely dry, I added some spray mists. And I was going for kind of, again, these colors like peach and yellow and like softer pinks. And then it kind of got to this stage where it's, should I or shouldn't I? And I could have left it with these pretty yellows and soft pinks and peaches, and I think it would have turned out also as a really nice page. But I really like bright colors. So this was really like that moment, okay, risk it or not, like I might possibly ruin everything I've made till now, and yeah, so no risk, no fun. I just went for it, and I started with some, I added some acrylic paint. This is Tina Wakely's, they're relatively new heavy body acrylic paints, and I used I think it's called Blackberry Violet and the magenta. So it just gave this pop of color, this real vibrant color to the page. And I kind of stayed with it in the middle area, and I added some water to get some what is it called, like drips of paint flowing there. Yeah, so it took kind of a different, more bold direction. A couple of other things I did was that I added, this was before in the video, with a circle stencil, I added more modeling paste, but this time I mixed it with some of the Lindy Stamp Gang flat shots. I mixed it with one of the yellows, so I had this really nice, I go over it with sprays and stuff, but it already had like this nice yellow color to it, which is also fun to color your molding paste. You can do that with acrylic paints or mists or whatever you have on hand. Yeah, and then I used the same stencil also in a different stage of this to remove some of the Blackberry Violet, and I used a baby wipe. And you can do this, like remove acrylic paint, I'm pretty sure about what I'm going to say because it makes sense. That you can do that only while your color is still wet, or slightly wet, because once it's dry it's permanent. And well, I can go over it now, try with a baby wipe, but I'm too scared to do that. But I think it's not going to work because acrylic paint is supposed to be permanent once dry. Yeah, so that's also a fun look, to remove some paint. It creates a really interesting look, I think. So the photo I went for here, the photo I'm using is, I have to admit, I was never a real fan of all the feet photos. As my mom says, the parts that are the cutest with children are kind of the bleh with grown-ups, which is like, 2 shoes and feet. How is that connected to this? It's really not. No, the thing is, like, yeah, I was never like really into that whole thing, like shooting your feet. But I kind of, on this trip in these 2 weeks, I kind of did try to do that, like to get a photo of my feet pretty much every day. But in my mind, I was kind of, I wanted to make just a layout in the album with all these photos on the same layout, just, to show like the different places we went, and from photos of sea to beach to pool to like that type of thing. So that was my intention. But on this particular day, this was the second day of our trip to France, and this was taken in Italy, in the Italian Riviera, and which means Riviera means just coastline or something like that, or seashore or something in Italian. So it's basically the parts that are next to the Mediterranean Sea. And I just didn't have a lot of photos from that day. We drove half the day, and then the other half we spent next to the pool, and in the evening we went to the this town where we were. So I really wanted to write about this day, which is kind of funny because you'll see later how I added my journaling, so I didn't really actually add it to this page. But I'm not a huge fan of pages without photos. It's just not my thing. I would prefer to put even a photo that is, I don't know, completely out of focus, and tell the story with that than not to use a photo at all. It's just a personal preference. So it's kind of like the only picture I had from that day that I thought would show a little bit of how it looked. And but I had like kind of stuff that I wanted to tell about that day, so I used the photo of my feet for this page, even though I didn't want to. But no, it's a okay photo. The camping ground was very nice. Yeah, and a few minor disasters or annoyances that happened during the making of this page is that one, I was like fighting with the sticker sheet, like this border sticker sheets, because they have these borders with these little holes and you have to poke the thingies out, and it's just why do you do that to us scrapbookers? Don't we have enough trouble making our pages and making all these decisions and doing all these things that we have to poke out little stickers thingies? And then it was stuck to my hand for the rest of the day, and it was super annoying. And another thing that happened that was just as tragic was that I was adding some splatters of paint, and I was wearing my favorite shirt lately, and of course I got spray on it, and I immediately took it to the laundry machine, and I think I rescued it, but it was, you know, touch and go there for a sec. Okay, so I just want to show you how I added the journaling. I have quite a lot to tell about this particular afternoon, and it's kind of hard to include it on this layout. I could write it on the background, but because I used all this molding paste, it's really uneven, and I just don't want to mess it up. So what I did is I made a Word document, and I just wrote everything down, and then I narrowed it so it would fit into this piece of vellum and kind of fill the page, because I thought that would look better. And I have in my printer also like a rear tray. So that's what I used, because it doesn't bend the paper as much as the regular tray that goes like under my printer. I have a Canon printer. So what I do is I start with just the paper, and I put it in the rear tray, and I write here TR, that stands for top right, so I'll know how to put the paper once I attach the vellum to it. And so I just send it to my printer and print it on a regular piece of like printer paper, and then I can line up the vellum and know exactly where it will print. And I use some washi tape to adhere it, and it just goes without a problem into the printer. And again, I know how to position the paper. And that's it, and then I will just remove the washi. It doesn't matter if it rips the page, because it's not gonna hopefully rip the vellum, so that's what I care about. I don't care about this piece of paper. And in my album, what I want to do is to like just make holes. I could use a 6x12, probably like a 6x12 page protector. I didn't measure this. I think it's, yeah, it's exactly actually 6 inches, but it's just vellum, and I think it would look really cool just to put it like this in the album. So And I'm kind of free to, I don't know where exactly this will go, so I'm free to put it on this side or on this side. It doesn't really matter. And it looks really cool because you can see the page like showing through kind of, and then you can just read it and get the image. So I hope that's helpful, maybe like a good idea when you want to do mixed media pages and you also want to include a lot of journaling. So this is a good way to do it. And another way would be like to use some Project Life cards and just put it on a divided page protector with some more photos of that day, for example.